New Hope TV, your encounter with God.
Hello, welcome back to another edition of New Day, New Beginning. People of God, I have been teaching you from last 4 weeks. I was dealing with few of the important characteristics or the traits required for a good leader. And let me give you a snapshot of what we learned in the last 4 episodes. 1, the importance of servanthood. 2, the highest degree of moral standard. 3, how to use authority. And 4, uphold the system which you have built. Today, we'll continue with another edition. The theme remains the same, the dynamics of leadership. We are going to learn what is stewardship. Very important trait for a good leader. Again, this message is extracted from the Old Testament, and then we will connect to the New Testament how this is applicable even in the modern world. So let's begin. Let's not waste time. Let's begin with the message. Let's go to Genesis chapter 40, verse 7 and 8. The verse 7 and 8 is, so he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of his Lord's house, saying, why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, we each have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of the dream. And Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please. These 2 verses are important for us to continue with the message that I have decided to teach you. Why these 2 verses were important? Let me just give you a flashback of this question, an interrogation done by Joseph to these 2 prisoners. One is a butler, another is a baker. They were chief, that means the head. One is the head of the baker, the other one is the head of the butler. So these 2 heads were also put in prison for one reason. They offended the king Pharaoh, and they were thrown into the prison. Unfortunately, these 2 officials had to undergo this rigorous imprisonment for offending the king, and they met Joseph in the same prison. You remember, Joseph was also thrown into the prison not because he committed any sin. He was not disloyal to his master. I'll briefly give you the background why Joseph was also a part of this prison. Joseph was sold to an officer, a captain of Egypt, who was very powerful for a particular sector of operation in Egypt. The Midianites, a group from Ishmael, had come and purchased Joseph and sold it to a man called Potiphar. The stewardship of Joseph began from the house of Potiphar. Potiphar was blessed and grew rich because of Joseph was absorbed in their house. He was appointed as a servant in Potiphar's house. The days passed, and Potiphar sensed that he is growing rich because of the blessing and the ability of Joseph, the manner of execution in terms of duties by Joseph was phenomenal. One day, Potiphar set off to a long journey. He decided to instruct Joseph to take care of everything that he owns and said, take control of all my properties, all my business, and I'll be back soon. In the absence of Potiphar, Potiphar's wife had a lustful eye on Joseph. Joseph did not give in to the demands of Potiphar's wife. And one day she decided to attack him because he was not giving in for her desires and demands. And let me make this long story short. He was accused of attacking the modesty of that lady. When Potiphar came back, she narrated a different story, which was an absolute lie, and Potiphar believed his wife rather than trusting Joseph. This provoked him to throw Joseph into the prison. Now, in the prison, Joseph is always animated, the Bible tells, he is always active. And even the gatekeeper and the jailkeeper was fascinated by Joseph. One day, it so happened, this butler and the baker were also brought into the cell, and they were seeming to be very sad on a particular day. So Joseph asked, you see, the most important thing we must learn in these two verses is, Joseph approached these two officials and asked, why do you look sad today? That's wisdom, people of God. The spirit of wisdom in Joseph always worked in his favor. You know what? Just by asking a very simple question to these two officials, they said that they had a dream, and the dream was not interpreted by anybody because they could not understand the dream outcome is and what is the dream is all about. So you know what Joseph said? Joseph said, don't you know the interpretations of dream belongs to God? It is not in the hands of humans. Some of those dreams, very colorful dreams, are a prophetic dreams. So Joseph said, please see the language of Joseph. He said, why don't you please tell me? You see, Joseph remembered one thing. He had dreams, and he approached his brother and his father and narrated the dream that he had seen. And they were not willing to listen to the dream. And Joseph realized that he had the spirit of wisdom for interpretations of dreams. We see in Old Testament another prophet, powerful Daniel, the mighty man, had similar gift. He was able to interpret dreams. Remember, to Nebuchadnezzar the king, Daniel was able to interpret the dreams. So here, the most important key factor in these two verses, asking a question. Why it is important? Do you know what the Lord said? Ask, seek, and knock. Why these things are important? I tell you why. Asking and seeking and knocking is the ground reality for the whole human life. These are the three words, the most powerful words, grounded to understand the life cycle. No matter whether you consider for a family, for a business, nothing proceeds or progress without these three words which is spoken by Lord. Nothing can transact between two entities without these three words: asking and seeking and knocking determines the strength of the whole business model in the modern world. Now, Joseph learned this. He asked. Just because he asked this question, look at what happened to Joseph in the future verses when I take you through the other verses, how he was elevated just because of this one question which he asked. Then what happened? He explained the dream, and then he was very successful in explaining the dream, and it was fulfilled according to his interpretation. Couple of years passed, and one day Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, also had a dream. He invited all the magicians, the scholars, the wise men of the kingdom, and he narrated the dream. All the officials were gathered to listen to the dream that the king had seen. It was a back-to-back dream. He saw two dreams. When he narrated the dream, nobody could interpret the dream. No magician could interpret, no wise men could interpret, no scholars could interpret. And the king was disappointed. He was so sad. There was not a single man, a person in Egypt who could interpret the dream. This butler suddenly realized that he had met Joseph in the cell when he was put in jail. And he apologized for not revealing this truth to the king. And he was made himself confident and went to the king and said, "Lord, if you permit me to tell you something, probably it could solve your problem." The king asked, "What is it?" Then this butler said to the king, "I met a person in the jail. His name is a Hebrew. His name is Joseph. I had a dream. Nobody could interpret, but he interpreted and it came to pass. Why don't you call this man and narrate the same dream and check yourself whether he is able to interpret the dream that you saw?" For some reason, Pharaoh was convinced because his own officials could not explain the dream. Then he was commanded to go to the jailer and produce Joseph before the king. And Joseph heard the dream. What kind of a dream Pharaoh had seen, and Joseph was able to interpret the dream. So we'll not get to the dream that Pharaoh had seen, because we have something more important to study to understand the importance of stewardship. Go with me to chapter 41, Genesis 41, verses 37 to 43. Verses 37 to 43. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" This is spoken by Pharaoh See how Pharaoh has recognized the wisdom of Joseph. So he is proclaiming to the people, the officials and the counselors who are assembled in the kingdom, in his palace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." People of God, what did we learn from the previous two verses I read? It was Joseph's wisdom that worked in asking those two prisoners, the butler and the baker. He asked, "Why are you sad?" And they narrated their dream, and he was able to interpret the dream. This one small effort of asking simple question to a jailmate brought Joseph before the king. See, we often forget the small things which are more important than the bigger things that we always have in mind. Joseph was clever. He was intelligent. And see, here, before Pharaoh nominated him as the second in rank in the entire land of Egypt, Joseph, after interpreting the dream, he gave a solution to the dream, and then he also gave a suggestion which formulated for the next 7 years as the basis of ruling the government in Egypt. What was it? Joseph said, "Pharaoh, now that I have revealed the actual nature of the dream, and I have interpreted because of the Spirit of God, the Spirit of wisdom was in me, and the Lord revealed me and what God is going to do to your kingdom. Now I have a suggestion. I have a formula for you to remain sustenance during the time of famine. There are good days, there are bad days in your dream. So the delegation of work, what kind of delegations you have to do, was suggested by Joseph. You read the entire chapter, you will see Joseph was such an intelligent man. He taught Pharaoh how to delegate work, how to appoint the leaders, and in what manner they have to function for the first 7 years. Those are the first 7 good years. And what happens in the next 7 years, which is going to be more severe in terms of drought and famine. So the delegation of work, see the stewardship, the role of a stewardship. The delegation of work, one must be sound in delegating work. So Pharaoh was impressed. Now do you understand why Pharaoh was praising Joseph before the council? Because Joseph was the person who gave a map for the next 14 years. In what are the steps required to perform for the next 14 years? What are the duties and the works that should be performed by the officials? Nobody was able to come forward and suggest this solution to the king. So because Joseph was able to do that, Pharaoh found a wise suggestion was given by Joseph, and Joseph found favor in the sight of Pharaoh. See, we all have some wisdom. The Lord has already given wisdom, knowledge, understanding with a degree of measure to each one of us. But what we normally do is we fail to apply those wisdom and knowledge and understanding at the appropriate time. Joseph was clever. He applied his wisdom and he got elevated. Many people come to me and say, brother, I have a problem in the organization. I don't get promoted. There are others who do less work than what I do, but yet they are promoted. No, people of God. There is no such a thing as somebody surpassing other. All these are part of our culture and custom. For people who fear God and who walks in righteousness, he doesn't have to see how the favor comes from the masters or the superiors. You walk in righteousness, you walk with integrity and perform your duties, the blessing shall shower on you by our Almighty. Yeshua is watching all of us. He will never pass over your promotion. He will ensure that my son, my daughter is doing the absolute work required for his promotion. So Pharaoh promoted Joseph because of his wisdom. Not only because of his wisdom, the way he delegates work, his ideas, his concepts were liked by Pharaoh, and he was put in a highest rank. The promotion was given to him. Remember, Joseph never approached Pharaoh for a promotion. He didn't seek his favor. All that he did is his job. What is his job? The gift of the spirit of wisdom. It was given to him and he recognized his gift. We must recognize our gift. Pay close attention to what I'm saying now. Do not borrow ideas. Do not take people's opinion personally. If you go by people's opinion, you will fail. Each one of us has our gift of knowledge, understanding, which differs from others. All that we need to do is that we must recognize our own talents. You see, a sort of intuition works in us. You focus on the area of your strength. You will definitely figure out what is the area of your strength. You don't have to wait for someone to come or approach you and say, this is what you're strong at. No. Just do an introspection, work on yourself, and test yourself the strong areas. Then you will recognize your own talent and you will progress. Joseph was able to do that. We must also cultivate, instill such habits in our life, understanding our strengths, not the weaknesses. Do not go by others' opinion. And let us connect the same promotion how the Lord spoke to his disciples. Turn with me to Matthew 24, verses 45 to 47. The Lord said, "Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his house, ruler over his household to give them food in the season. You see, the Lord speaking to us now, how the promotions were given. Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. What a precious word. Assuredly I say to you that he will be made him ruler over all his goods. Very similar to what we saw in Joseph's life. Joseph was made the second in rank in the whole land of Egypt. People don't expect a easy going in life. You see, Joseph was thrown into a foreign land. Remember that. It was not his country. There will be a day that you will be thrown into a foreign country, but will you emerge as a more successful person in life? I recommend read the chapter and understand how important it is for us to use our talents, the gifts that God has given to us. Precious people of God, I am running out of time. I'll continue the series because I have received several messages and requests from the God's children who are requesting to continue this theme. So I have decided to continue a few more episodes on the title Dynamics of Leadership. And remember, Jesus is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And I pray, remain blessed. Amen.